This generated model visualizes how a large corporation organizes intellectual property. It is a dense, monolithic structure built from 1,000 interlocking nodes, bound by thick, rigid connections. Its patent power derives entirely from this organized infrastructure, not from superior creativity. Compare that to the reality for independent inventors. Here we have 1,000 isolated dots floating randomly in a void, completely separate from one another. If these independent innovators possess equal creative capacity, the logical step is to team up. But collaboration introduces severe risk. Teaming up exposes the inventor to exploitation, idea theft, and a loss of control over their own work. Consequently, the inventor remains isolated, and an isolated patent is strategically weak. It lacks the legal, capital, and licensing coordination required to actually enforce it in a commercial market. The true moat protecting massive corporations is the infrastructure of portfolio organization itself. The Open Innovation Engine, or OIE, is a structural solution to this exact problem. It is a framework designed to safely aggregate isolated inventors into a coordinated portfolio capable of matching corporate power. To function, this aggregation must be engineered around a strict anti-capture and basis recovery architecture. The system must guarantee that inventors coordinate without ever surrendering their ownership. We can decode how this engine operates by examining its 3 structural layers. This animated blueprint outlines those components. At the base is IP creation insourcing. In the middle is the basis recovery economic waterfall. And at the top, providing oversight, is tri-share governance. Together, these layers function as an operating system. They generate corporate-level intellectual property power without relying on an extractive corporate hierarchy. The traditional intellectual property model operates on an expensive bottleneck. Inventors rely entirely on outside law firms for every step of documentation, making portfolio generation unaffordable for small teams. The OIE bypasses this bottleneck through a protocol called insourcing creation. Instead of outsourcing the entire process, inventors are trained to build the technical foundation of their own patents. Technical teams utilize artificial intelligence to draft technical embodiments, organize system diagrams, and map out alternative implementations with extreme efficiency. This does not eliminate human legal expertise. Rather, it reserves expensive attorney time strictly for the tasks that require it: high-level claim strategy, legal judgment, and quality control. Shifting the bulk of the initial drafting work back to the technical team drastically reduces the financial friction required to protect new ideas. By lowering the cost per asset, this insourcing model alters the scalability of intellectual property creation. Distributed inventors gain the ability to build expansive, interconnected portfolios rather than relying on a single isolated patent. Moving to the second layer, we have to address the financial risk of collaboration. Innovators rationally refuse to team up because they personally carry the upfront costs of prototyping and patent prosecution. To solve this, the OIE establishes the concept of the documented IP basis. This is a strict accounting of the historical out-of-pocket costs and ongoing portfolio development expenses incurred by the individual inventor. This flowchart charts the exact economic waterfall governing the engine. The primary financial rule is strict. No general community dividends are distributed from an IP asset until the contributor's documented IP basis is fully addressed. At the top, we have gross monetization. In the first step of the waterfall, that gross monetization flows down and pays off direct commercialization and ordinary operating costs. Second, the remaining funds flow downward to finance current and ongoing IP production and prosecution. Step 3 is the critical mechanism. The flow stops at the specific inventor's documented IP contributor basis account. The downward flow pauses here until the inventor is made whole for their upfront risk. Only after the basis is fully recovered does the surplus cascade down to fund R&D reserves and finally flow into a broad pool for surplus community dividends. The engine refers to this as the no confiscation principle. Bringing an asset into the OIE does not erase its financial history. This immutable accounting sequence replaces the need for blind trust with structural financial fairness. It guarantees that collaboration is economically safe for independent inventors. For the final layer, the system requires a governance model. Collaborative networks typically fail in one of two ways: leaderless collective paralysis, or conventional corporate extraction. The OIE avoids paralysis by operating on a special operations founder-team leader model. This structure prioritizes decisive execution and forward momentum over endless consensus building. To prevent that decisive leadership from degrading into corporate extraction, the system relies on this tri-share class system. It relies on 3 balanced nodes. The first node consists of founder shares. Their function is mission lock. They hold veto power to prevent a parent from abandoning the protected open source model or converting into an extractive company. The second node consists of preferred shares. These exist strictly to protect priority rights for major capital and documented IP contributions. The third node consists of regular shares. These empower the broader community, providing ordinary voting and dividend rights to active participants. Crucially, regular shares are capped. This prevents early members from accumulating an internal monopoly and dominating the system through sheer seniority. This tri-share balance ensures the governance structure protects the founding mission, respects the capital and IP contributions, and empowers the community, each side checking and balancing the others. When we apply this framework to the 1,000 isolated inventors, the dynamic changes. The isolated nodes integrate into a single, cohesive network. Because these assets are securely aggregated, the OIE can execute collective licensing, conduct unified negotiations, and mount a coordinated legal defense. External corporate entities can no longer pick off vulnerable inventors one by one. They must interact with the engine as a unified, protected collective. The transparent trust layer transforms isolated patents into coordinated portfolio power. The operational sequence of the Open Innovation Engine reduces to 4 steps. First, train the inventor. Second, recover the documented basis. Third, protect the mission from capture. Fourth, share the surplus fairly. By rewriting the incentive structures of collaboration, distributed independent inventors can aggregate resources, secure their intellectual property, and successfully challenge corporate monopolies on equal footing.